Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. The Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We're very excited to have one of our partners presenting this morning. Notify is a online tee time waitlist assistant, really the only one of its kind, and the CEO and co-founder is joining us this morning, Jake Gordon. Also going to be partnered with one of our own, PGA General Manager Brian Reed from Simi Hills Golf Course, who is a proponent of the Notify vehicle. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, John.
Indeed. So go ahead and take us through your presentation, teach us about Notify, and we'll interject. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So I will monitor the questions and the hand raises along the way, and might interject with a question or two of my own. But thank you again for partnering with the Southern California PGA, and thanks for coming on the Catalyst webinar series.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having us, John. Thrilled to be with you. And I'm dialing in here from Woodland Hills, California, which is smack in the middle of SCPGA territory. And excited to tell you a little bit today about Notify, our background, our story. And I thought it'd be much more impactful to invite Brian Reed, who has origin stories with us as a company and is our longest tenured both client and I'm proud to call friend, both personally and of the company. And so, as you said, would love for this to be interactive. For anybody who is dialing in, please feel free to ping and chat questions. I'll keep my eye on throughout, and we could hopefully make it as specific to your interests as possible. All right, so just today, high level, Brian and I will do a quick introduction. I definitely come from a little bit more of an atypical background for a PGA, proud SCPGA member. And then I'll give you a little bit of background on, why we exist, what the problem is that we're solving, both for golfers and for operators. I'd rather do more showing than telling. So I'll walk you through the solution specifically for Simi Hills and what we're doing with several other Southern California public golf courses. And then lastly, I'll pass the mic to Brian to tell you a little bit about how things have gone, almost approaching a year since we did our initial launch at Simi Hills. And again, we could pause for questions at the end, but please feel free to ask questions throughout. Alrighty, so just a quick introduction. I'll tee it up here, and then Brian, I'll pass it to you. So for everybody, great to meet you. I'm Jake Gordon, one of the co-founders and CEO of Notify. I was born and raised in LA. I was just telling John beforehand, even though I'm a SoCal native, never picked up a golf club really until 4 years ago or so. So I was a late bloomer for sure. I actually played baseball and I wrestled and then ended up wrestling through college and grad school. And just a little bit of background, my career from a professional point of view started in technology. So I was at a big firm called Accenture and spending all my time looking at emerging technology, working with big companies to solve big problems with emerging technology. And it wasn't until I got the golf bug big time, maybe a year or so before COVID, that I realized there were some opportunities to bring some of the great technology we saw in industries like hospitality, travel, and restaurants into the hands of both golfers and operators. And so I'll get into a little bit of that today, but I'll pause there. Brian, you want to do a quick intro as well?
Yeah, sure. As Jake said, Brian Reed is the GM at Simi Hills. I actually have two golf courses, Simi Hills and Sinaloa in the Simi Valley, both owned by the Park District here in Simi. I've been here for coming up on 20 years, but I've been in the golf business for about 30 years at various properties, worked for American Golf for a while, at 3 or 4 different golf courses around Ventura County and the Valley, Brookside, Saticoy, Camarillo Springs. So I've been around the golf business for a little while. And like I said, I've been here at Simi for the last 19 years counting.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. All right. Well, Brian was actually part of our founding story because I was a hopeless daily fee golfer in the LA area, and I'm sure many of you on the call who run public golf courses, are well aware of the increase in demand over the last few years, and obviously supply has not increased at the same pace. So it's always been a mad dash for public golfers to find tee times. And I was blessed, or you could say cursed, with the title of the tee time booking guy for my group of buddies living in LA trying to find tee times. And obviously that was a major struggle. And what that often entailed at courses like Simi Hills and the LA City courses and others was simply smashing the refresh button on the tee sheet, calling the pro shop, and begging and borrowing and hoping that something came up to find at the last minute. And obviously, that was a painful experience because I'd have often 9 different courses and I'm smashing the refresh on all of them, and you just hope that something comes up. And the question crossed my mind, how is this the best solution for me as a golfer trying to find times at the course? Because as I looked at the restaurant industry, travel, Resi and Open Table, which many of you may have used, they have personalization, they have automation to connect supply and demand. Even at busy, really high demand restaurants, you can create alerts if something comes open. If you're flying from LA to New York, you can create an alert when there's a price drop. And there's many different case studies like this. So I was just shocked that if I'm a golfer, the best thing I could do is just smash the refresh button, which was very surprising. So I ended up calling Brian and I said, Brian, is there any sort of automated wait list? Is there anything that, exists to notify me? And he said, no, not really. And I said, well, if there was, is that something you think you'd use? And he said, probably. And he said, does it exist? I said, nope. But 5 months later, I called Brian back and I said, hey, we have something that's working, and I think you'd like to take a look. So that was the kernel of the company, of how we started. That was maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And today we are working with, as I'll show you, well over 120 daily fee courses across the country. So number one is, if a golfer doesn't see the tee time, what are they supposed to do? They can't do much. And one thing as well, though, surprising, is 24 to 48 hours out, there would always be a rush of cancellations. And we worked closely with some of the biggest POS companies and tee sheet providers, and interestingly found that about 1 in 5 tee times get canceled that are booked online. So 1 in 5 tee times between a golfer booking and finding that tee time coming to start get canceled. So if a Saturday morning tee time gets canceled, on a Monday it's probably going to get filled. But if it's a Friday afternoon or even a Friday evening and a Saturday 8 a.m. tee time gets canceled, now all of a sudden you have valuable inventory that's perishable and is at risk of going unfilled. And so just my personal experience, on every Friday morning when I'd go through my tee sheet smashing exercise, I was usually pretty lucky because I'd always find a cancellation. So we said, as most startup stories start, there's got to be a better way. And so what we've built is a fully personalized automated waitlist software that augments whatever POS tee sheet the course is using today. So in the case of Simi Hills, they're a customer of 4UP software. And we built a platform that augments the existing software, whatever it is, Lightspeed, Easy Links, however, and enables the golfer to input their future playing preferences. So I could say, I want to play at Simi Hills this Saturday or every Saturday for the rest of the year between these parameters. And then the second, I just say how many players and notify. Same exact inputs as I'd put if I called the pro shop. The difference is now the system is running in the background and working on my behalf and the operator's behalf to connect me with the tee time that I want. The second that something comes online, it could be a Friday morning, it could be a Friday night, it could be a Monday afternoon. Whenever there's a match between my desired playing preferences and the course's availability, I will get a real-time text and email notification prompting me to come book. However, it is first come, first serve. And so it's a little bit of a mad dash when there's a valuable tee time. But what happens is the golfer books as they normally would on the tee sheet, and they can instantly effectively get visibility into the availability and book automatically. The course then keeps 100% of that booking revenue, and they were able to mitigate a call because the customer didn't have to call. They compressed the tee sheet because that cancellation got filled, and the customer had a great experience because I could have been at the grocery store and on a Friday afternoon thinking I'm not playing, and now I have a morning tee time at my favorite course to play. So that's a little bit of how the system works. And again, we augment on top of the existing system. So you don't need to replace any of your current technology to work with us. And I do see Gene Park had a question. Has the rate of golfers walking on decreased? Are there always some people that show up without a tee time? So maybe that is a question more for Brian. Brian, do you want to touch on kind of how, I know we're going to get into it in a minute, but how have you seen walk-ons decrease or phone calls decrease as a result of this?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Gene. Yeah. I think we don't really have any good, way of, tracking that. We don't keep track of how many people walk on, but anecdotally, it seems like there's a little bit less of a walk-on list on the day of in the last couple of years than there had been previously. Probably an effect of Notify. I mean, people being able to get in and get a tee time without standing there waiting in the golf shop for 3 or 4 hours. But hard to say for sure that those are connected, but it seems logical.
Do you think that also that's a piece of, kind of our on-demand culture where people don't have the patience to wait around and just, wait lists are going away just from a societal standpoint?
Maybe culturally, I think that is changing as time goes on because there's a lot of golf courses now that require prepayment, and so people are paying for their foursome ahead of time, and even if they short show, they're still paying for the spot, so the course isn't putting somebody in that open time necessarily, and so I think the availability of those walk-on spots is kind of diminished a little bit as people are being held accountable for showing up, because I think the show up rate is a little higher for us. It's probably higher at a lot of places that are doing advanced payment. So I think that walk-on availability is probably decreasing a little bit culturally as things have gone on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the question. Feel free to follow on. I'll just continue moving here. So what's interesting is since that call to Brian, kind of high level asking, hey, do you think this would work? And Brian being course number 1 on our platform, it's an interesting case study because Brian runs a highly desirable daily fee public municipal owned course that's doing a lot of rounds, but is also on the more premium side in terms of the quality of the product. So there's definitely way more demand than there's supply, and it did put an interesting first test of the system, right? But since then, we have rolled out our technology to pretty much courses of every different shape and size you can imagine. We work with some of the biggest multi-course operators in the world, like Kemper Sports, Touchstone, Landscapes, TPC, Bobby Jones, many of which run courses in the SoCal market. But then we have solo courses across the country, right? We have well over 120 and counting. If you're going to Sand Valley in Wisconsin or Streamsong in Florida or Chambers Bay in Washington, you're going to see our technology helping golfers find times. At the same coin, we have 9-hole daily fee courses in rural Texas using the platform. So what I'm going to do now, and feel free if there are any other questions to keep piling on, I'm going to do a little bit more showing than telling to show you exactly how it works. You can all see the Simi Hills website now. Brian, can you see the website? Okay, perfect. Yep. So I'll start off by just showing you exactly how it would work if, any of you could do this, right? I go to book a tee time and I click book online here, non-resident. I sign in, go to non-resident, and let's say I look for a tee time on Saturday. Voila, there's nothing before.
We're still seeing the home screen, by the way. It's not updating real fast. Okay, now it's keeping up.
Okay, perfect. So I land on the 4-up tee sheet for Simi Hills. I go to Saturday, and I don't see anything before 1 o'clock. This is the exact situation that so many golfers are in at so many of your properties, where now you have this dread that you feel like you're out of luck. But obviously, Simi Hills has their tee time wait list. So the golfer can click on the site. They could say, hey, you know what? I'll play tomorrow, or I'll play on Friday or Saturday. And if I want, I can input every single Saturday for the rest of the year. Now, the tee sheet at Simi Hills is only available, I think, 7 days out, or maybe 10. And you'll correct me if I'm mistaken there, Brian. But the point is, I could still input my future playing preferences, even if the tee sheet isn't online, because our technology is just monitoring your availability. And when that supply comes online, we will then inform your golfers. I then click get notified. It's really that easy. It's just a few clicks. And just like that, a search is created and you get a text when the time is found. So now what happens is our technology is working in the background. And the second that there's an availability, right, I get both a text and an email. And it says, hey, your tee time's been found by Notify. It may be available. Click here to book. I click book now and get routed right back to the POS tee sheet. And I could check for tomorrow. And there's a few availability alerts. These are probably cancellations that just went out, right? Now I can book as I normally would. There's no difference in the booking journey. Notify is not touching payment. We're not touching any of your tee sheet. All we're doing is matching your supply and demand. And just like that, I assume as we speak, there's a bunch of people that just got availability alerts for tomorrow morning. And, it's 8:20. So Brian enforces a 24-hour cancellation window. So it's not surprising that just in the nick of time, 2 or 3 people just cancel for tomorrow. Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this conversation, those were filled by people who just got alerts.
Right.
I'll pause there. Any questions on any of that journey or experience or how any of that all works? Cool.
You don't have any fiduciary tie to their POS system, correct? Because what if they what if they Notify alerts them, they book the tee time, they cancel the tee time, Simi Hills charge them, that happens without your assistance in any way?
Correct. We have a close working relationship with many of the largest point of sale software companies. So we collaborate closely with those point of sale companies like 4UP, like Lightspeed, like Club Caddy, and others to enable to effectively augment what they already have. But the rules of the tee sheet don't change, right? All we're doing is notifying Brian's golfers when his tee sheet is available within their personalized preferences, and making it easy and more frictionless to do that without any manual intervention on either side.
But they cannot book a tee time through Notify. They just get notified and then have to go back to the Simi tee.
That is exactly right. Yes. We are not doing any bookings on behalf of the golfers. We are like every golfer's personal assistant to help them find a time, and every operator's marketing assistant to fill the tee sheet at the same time, just no human intervention.
Makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll keep anything to add, Brian, on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, what you said is exactly how it works. I mean, you get the text message, the booking link is right there. I mean, you can, and I've used it personally, and you select the courses that you like. I mean, so if you have a certain rotation that you like you mentioned, your 9 courses that, you would try to get on, you can select all 9 courses. And, if something pops in, you get a text, it's almost immediately. I mean, in theory, you could, hit the button right there on the spot and go right to the booking engine. And so, it's very easy to, and maybe the time doesn't work exactly right and you just disregard it. And I mean, the message is going out to everybody. So, it's going to, from an operator point of view, the casting a wider net is great. I mean, it just gets the word out there easier, and it works a hell of a lot better than the old fashioned callback list that we used to run.
Right. Awesome. All right. Well, let me show you a little bit under the hood, and hopefully, eyes won't glaze over here. But I'll just show you every single operator that is using our platform gets a full set of advanced analytics on the performance of the platform. So as it's loading here, this is not Brian's course. This is another anonymized course in Southern California. That's a customer. And we can show you how many people have signed up, how many notifications have gone out, how many tee times have been successfully reported. So for this course, there's been 641 rounds confirmed booked, which is over $50,000 in green fee revenue. And as a result of that, it just directly impacts the top line utilization of the property. And again, no additional effort. So you can think of us almost like a marketing lead generation tool as much as we are an operations platform. We're able to show you future visibility into your demand, usage of the product, demographic information, and all sorts of different bells and whistles that help you run your golf course more efficiently. And some of our most sophisticated operators are using this for their marketing data. I just had a conversation with a sales and marketing director in Southern California who's a customer. They had a 90-person outing canceled on Thursday for Saturday. So 2 days before they had a 90-person outing canceled, they did not have a deposit. So there was panic, right? Because all of a sudden that's a huge amount of green fee revenue at risk. They put, and I just heard this story last week. She then opened up all 90 times. There was a huge volume of people on the wait list to play at the course. Notifications started flying. They filled all 90 rounds in 1 hour. In 1 hour, Saturday got filled. And so she was like, dude, you're a hero with this, because it was really cool. This is in the Southern California market, public municipal daily fee course that works with us.
Yeah, because without Notify, they would have been lucky to fill 20% of those vacancies.
That's exactly right. Any questions on any of the visualization of the data or the performance or anything like that? Awesome. And I know we're coming up on the half-hour mark. I'm just going to jump back to the slides here, and I'm gonna pass it to Brian. And Brian, maybe just ask you a few questions. Right, we're coming up on a year of the partnership. Maybe you can just summarize overall how things have gone, what impact you've seen. As we talk to many operators, some view us really about the top line, others view us about the operational efficiency, and some are just about the customer experience. All are a blend of those. But I'm curious for you, what has happened since you turned the system on?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, every golf course has different policies and different, revenue objectives and different practices. I mean, some courses do prepayment, some do cancellation fees for, short shows or no shows, some don't. It all depends on the course and, the revenue objective. So, I mean, it's all over the map. Where we were, previously, we had, Saturday morning, of course, would book solid, in just a few seconds, and we would get, several hundred phone calls after that. Do you have anything for Saturday? Do you have anything for Saturday? And, the answer was always no. And we would take people's name and number and say, hey, we'll call you if there's a cancellation. And once that callback list got down to, 12 or 15, 20 people, most golfers would just pass and, keep dialing. And, when we'd get cancellations, we would go to that list and we would start calling, and it's hit and miss whether or not we get somebody's voicemail or not. And, if they already found something else or just changed their plans. So it was a very laborious process, and it generally worked pretty well. People appreciated that we did that. We were trying to help them, get out, but it was a little bit hit and miss, and it took a little bit of staff time to do it. And so that was the huge, benefit to me for having Notify, because okay, that's all autopilot now. I don't even have to think about it. Golfers can put in their parameters. We don't have to take their number and call them back and play voicemail tag. I mean, they can just do it on their own, and they loved it and we loved it because it saved us time and it saved them time, and that was great. I mean, it's really hard to estimate what the net revenue benefit is, because if 8 o'clock on Saturday morning cancels, or like that 8:24 for tomorrow, if that cancels, well, it was booked and it's going to get booked, and so that is 100% revenue almost every time anyway. So I don't see that as additional revenue. I mean, it's definitely saving that revenue, but for the most part, I would think somebody would call and book that. I mean, at 24 hours out, it would likely get booked either way. It's just Notify is way more convenient, and people love it, and it's autopilot. That's the best thing. So there's a lot of different moving parts on the tee sheet, and it's kind of hard to really look at 1 year versus the previous year and say, okay, last year we did 82,000 rounds. This year we're going to probably end up around 86. Is that 4,000 rounds due to Notify? It's kind of hard to say that with certainty. I mean, there's weather and pricing and competition and things like that go into the cake also. But for sure, it helps, and for sure it's made life easier on golfers and us. So it's a win-win-win as far as I'm, from my point of view.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
And I'll open it up if there are any questions for Brian. Feel free to jump in. It's really interesting that we see sometimes, as I showed you, we talk to operators of almost every shape and size. So oftentimes when we're talking to a resort, it does come down to a lot about the top line and about customer experience. Because if I'm a resort and I have, maybe my lodging is full, but I want to attract more daily fee golfers, this is a tool to be able to do that, right? And maybe I'm a resort and I have, a huge volume of inbound phone calls and I want to redirect that. So every single operator we talk to has a different priority. But it's great to hear that, with Brian, the operational efficiency and customer experience were really where the value were positioned. I'll just wrap by saying, we really are agnostic. We do not replace any existing technology that the operator uses. We're easy to work with, and we snap on almost instantly to be able to augment your tools and capabilities. Right now, we're just working with public courses, but in the near future, we have a roadmap to be able to have a private course solution as well very soon. Again, we have a wide number of users and courses in Southern California, but we've seen just about every single course shape and size. So if you do have any other questions, we're accessible. I'm an LA golf fanatic and have played almost everywhere in town. So would love to continue the conversation and figure out if there's a way that we could help your course. Before we wrap, curious, John, if you have any other thoughts.
Sure, absolutely. And again, just before we get into see if there's any questions from the field, I just wanted to thank you for your partnership with the section. The important thing to note about Notify and these win-win relationships that we have with you and you have with us, and it's like John McNair is the principal for JC Golf Resorts, and I think he says it best. Where when it comes to maximizing tee sheet utilization, there are very few home runs. You know, most of the victories are incremental base hits, walks, base steals. And when it comes to, and it's like, I worked for American Golf for 10 years, and 5 of those years was on their public side, 3 of which was at a very busy LA County public golf course. And when you're trying to excel over prior year or to match a plan, you're competing against what you did on the same day the prior year. And if you did 500 rounds on the same day prior year, how are you going to best that? How are you going to grow? How are you going to excel? It's incremental movement on your tee sheet. Either you open up earlier and put lights out there, or you make the tee time increments shorter, but you run into member and guest dissatisfaction because of, you know, running behind on the tee sheet and pace of play issues that come up. So the offerings that Notify brings to the PGA professional running a daily fee golf course is all about maximizing that tee sheet without compromising the guest experience. And it's a tremendous vehicle for that. And you know, kudos to you for cornerstoning that, Jake. Truly.
Yeah, thank you, John. I appreciate that. You know, it's funny, early in the journey when we were talking to a lot of operators, talking to Brian, talking to some of those large multi-course operators like AGC and Kemper, one of the chief marketing officers at one of those big MCOs said to me, "Are you a product for golfers or are you a product for operators? Because you kind of have to pick one. And there are other incumbents who, you know, are large and have kind of picked a side. And we were asked that question point blank and had to make a decision. And we decided that our customer would be the operator. So every single piece of technology that we've built, we have a full, you know, my partner came from Microsoft and he's recruited a bunch of his golf loving engineer friends that now spend every minute of our day thinking about the operator. How can we make your life easier? How can we make you more revenue, increase your manual effort while delighting customers? And I think we've been able to achieve that, and we're just getting started. And so one thing that's important is we take feedback very closely. So if Brian texts me and he's like, "Hey man, I have an idea for this. Can we improve that? Have you considered this?" We almost instantly can integrate that if it's something that we think will benefit all of our GMs and all of our operators. So I appreciate that, John. And it's definitely something, you know, that we're working with, and we're hopeful that in our local market, you know, we can just keep making that easier.
Fantastic. Brian, do you have any closing comments or statements?
Yeah, you guys both said it really well. I mean, you know, it's one of many tools that we use. I mean, everybody who drives a golf course for a living, I mean, you know, there's a lot of different moving parts, and you know, there's a few tools that come along every so often, like you know, for the other graybeards in the crowd, you know, when email marketing first came out, it was like the greatest thing, and you know, it's like this is just one of those things that, you know, it was timely and it works and it just makes sense. And I mean, it's a big help. It's a good tool to put in the bag. I love it.
Awesome. Well, appreciate that, Brian. Thanks, John. And yeah, we're proud to be SCPGA members and continue the momentum we have around here.
Indeed. On behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, we want to thank Jake Gordon for coming on and presenting on Notify, and Brian Reed, General Manager from Simi Hills, coming on to advocate for the product. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day. And for all the PGA members that joined us this morning on the Catalyst, you will receive 1 PDR credit for joining us this morning. Thank you very much for your support, and have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Excellent. Thanks, John.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.